This really was, in my opinion, over the top. It does not meet the benchmarks required in the way that you go about executing search warrants or arrest warrants, for that matter.
And now let's try to understand what happened through the eyes of the FBI. Joining us, as he has before, Charles Marino, former supervisory special agent for the U.S. Secret Service. Charles, good to see you again.
Likewise, Doug. Thanks for having me.
One of the questions I have for you specifically, right out of the gate here, is there's a photograph of this incident that shows a couple of in fact, I think we have it right over my shoulder here, if we can show it right here, that shows a couple of Secret Service agents. I initially thought they were FBI, but they're not. They're Secret Service agents brandishing their machine guns. And I'm wondering what goes through the minds of these folks when you have two federal law enforcement agencies with very conflicting missions here. The Secret Service, obviously at Mar-a-Lago to protect the former president of the United States. And then you've got the FBI arriving on the scene to serve warrants, search warrants for a former president of the United States. What a conflict.
Yeah, what a conflict. And let's remember, too, that neither agency reports to the other. So it makes it even more complicated. But let's look at what former presidents are entitled to once they leave office. And that is they still receive full Secret Service protection. And that includes protection 24/7 at their primary residence, which Mar-a-Lago is for former President Trump. So this is unprecedented, what we're seeing here. The execution of a search warrant at the residence of a former president with a full Secret Service detail. The former president is relatively fresh out of office, Doug. So his protective detail is still rather large in size. Plus, we're looking at him potentially running for president again. So if you combine all those together, it could make for a very messy situation, and a dangerous one at that, because you don't want to have a situation where you have two law enforcement agencies, kind of encountering one another without prior notification. Mm-hmm. So I am very pleased to hear that the FBI coordinated in advance with the Secret Service, as much as an hour in advance, to let them know that this search warrant was in fact going to be executed.
Why, in your opinion, did they not take a more low-key approach in this raid?
Well, that's a good question, and I certainly know that Congress is going to be looking into this. The threat level just was not there, Doug. It just did not exist. You've got a former president that's been cooperating with the Department of Justice and other agencies during the course of this investigation. So, this really was, in my opinion, over the top. It does not meet the benchmarks required in the way that you go about executing search warrants or arrest warrants, for that matter, as well, when there's just not a threat and you're constantly in contact with the potential suspect or the party lawyers for the suspect, and there's cooperation ongoing. So this was a little bit over the top. It certainly was.
I've asked this question or posed this statement, I should say, many times before. I know a lot of really good FBI agents who are doing dangerous work out there in the field and have no involvement whatsoever with these allegations of a highly politicized bureau in Washington, D.C. How does this affect morale of the rank and file?
Yeah, well, you're right. I mean, listen, we call them the worker bees, right? These are the agents that are out there doing what they're told every day, believe firmly in the mission, believe firmly in the agency's statutory responsibilities, and they're out there doing their jobs. I think as we talk about the potential politicization of an organization, it's not happening at that level. It's certainly not. And it hurts morale. It does. And, you hate to see an agency exploited in this manner when they have such an important mission. And the other thing, too, that Republicans need to be careful of, Doug, because they've criticized the Democrats with law enforcement, is we don't want to turn this into sound bites, right? The Republicans, if they're out there saying, now defund the FBI, well, that's exactly what they were criticizing the Democrats for doing with respect to policing. So let's take a more strategic look at this. Certainly, there's problems that exist in the FBI. It's at the higher levels. We know this. And look forward to the next election and have a plan in place if you want to make changes to the organization. But don't turn this into a soundbite. I don't think during a contentious time such as these that it does anybody any good.
And if this raid was not purely political, as many Republicans are alleging and other observers have alleged, is there a possibility that someone in Trump's inner circle, perhaps someone who's under indictment, is feeding information to the FBI?
Yeah, it's entirely possible. This search warrant may or may not tell us a lot. It depends on how ambiguous it was written, although they still have to be rather detailed in what exactly they're looking for, because it's going to go along with the final inventory of evidence that's collected by the FBI. So if we're looking at something here in terms of freshness of information, then it is entirely possible that somebody tipped off the FBI to something new that required them, in their opinion, to have to act now and act urgently.
Charles Marino, former supervising special agent for the U.S. Secret Service. Really appreciate your perspective. You offer so much insight. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Doug.
Hi, I'm Doug McKelway, and thank you for watching Centerpoint. We hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. Leave a comment below and keep the conversation going by sharing this video with a friend who needs to see it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.